Welcome to your personalized deep dive.
Right.
We're going to unpack some crazy real-life cybercrime stories from India
All right.
based on that interview you sent us
Yeah.
with Amit Dubey,
Okay.
a cybercrime investigator.
Cool.
I got to say,
Yeah.
reading through this stuff,
Right.
I was just struck by how wild some of these cases are.
Yeah.
It's like a glimpse into a world
Mm-hmm.
most of us just
Yeah.
don't even know exists.
I know what you mean.
Like, we're talking about a businessman who lost 90 lakhs,
Oh, wow.
which is over 100,000 US dollars,
Okay.
to a romance scammer
Yeah.
who then taunted him, saying, catch me if you can.
No way.
And get this,
Okay.
there's even a murder mystery
Oh, really?
where a smartwatch
Uh-huh.
held the key to unraveling the truth.
Wow, that's interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
and an ATM robbery
Hmm.
that was solved
Okay.
in just 4 hours.
Wow.
All thanks to
Yeah.
some clever cold beta analysis.
That's work.
But before we get into those specific cases,
Right.
I want to get your expert take
Okay.
on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
What really stood out to you
Sure.
about the state of cybercrime in India,
Oh.
based on Amit Dubey's experiences?
Yeah, well, I think what's striking is the sheer scale of the problem.
Yeah.
You know, Dubey talks about people losing crores of rupees to cybercriminals.
Right.
And for those who may not know,
Mm-hmm.
crores refers to tens of millions.
Wow.
So we're talking about
Yeah.
massive financial losses here.
Right.
But it's not just about the money.
Yeah.
What really stuck with me
Okay.
is how these criminals are becoming
Mhm.
incredibly sophisticated
Right.
in the way they exploit technology
Yeah.
and human psychology.
Yeah, it's not always like some
Right.
super hacker in a dark room either.
Exactly.
Like, take that romance scam you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Dubey explains how
Mm-hmm.
the criminals actually used Google Ads,
Wow.
fake
Right.
Facebook profiles, and even created a whole fake company website
Really?
just to lure this one businessman in.
Oh, wow.
And it all started with
Uh-huh.
some seemingly harmless online searches
Right.
he was doing
Right.
about chemicals for his business.
Oh, interesting.
It's almost unbelievable how they were able to create
Yeah.
such an elaborate trap
It is kind of crazy.
based on such limited information.
Right.
I mean, how is anyone supposed to
Yeah.
protect themselves from something like that?
Well, it's a great question, and it really highlights this point that data is the new currency
Yeah.
in the digital age.
Mm-hmm.
Even something as simple as your date of birth
Okay.
or your Google search history can be used against you
Wow.
if it falls into the wrong hands.
Right.
And criminals are masters at connecting the dots,
Wow.
piecing together
Yeah.
these seemingly insignificant bits of information
Okay.
to build a detailed profile
Mm.
and target you specifically.
So it's not just about being careful with
Right.
what you share directly.
Exactly.
It's about being mindful
Yeah.
of the digital trail we all leave behind.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of people listening
Yeah.
are probably familiar with the idea of phishing scams and fake websites.
Yeah.
But Dubey talks about this thing called spoofing
Oh, yeah.
that I found particularly unsettling.
Uh-huh.
Can you explain what that is and how it works?
Sure. Spoofing basically means faking something
Okay.
to make it look legitimate.
Right.
Dubey discusses three main types:
Okay.
SMS spoofing,
Mm-hmm.
call spoofing,
Okay.
and email spoofing.
Gotcha.
Essentially, criminals manipulate technology to make it appear
Right.
as if a message or a call or an email is coming from a trusted source,
Okay.
like your bank,
Mm-hmm.
a government agency,
Right.
or even a close friend.
And he even mentions a case
Yeah.
where a criminal operating from Tihar jail,
Wow.
a high-security prison,
Okay.
was able to spoof calls from the home minister to extort money.
No way.
That's just insane.
I know, right?
I mean, if someone can impersonate the home minister,
Yeah.
who can you trust?
Exactly. That's what makes spoofing so dangerous.
Right.
It plays on our inherent trust in familiar numbers,
Yeah.
names, and institutions,
Uh-huh.
and it's often very difficult to detect.
Right. So
Yeah.
Dubey even points out
Mm-hmm.
that even tech-savvy folks
Yeah.
can fall victim to these tactics.
Right.
He gives the example of
Yeah.
eSIM activation scams,
Mm-hmm.
where criminals combine SMS spoofing
Okay.
with social engineering
Right.
to trick people into revealing sensitive information.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I got one of those calls myself recently.
Right.
This guy called me
Yeah.
claiming to be from my mobile carrier.
Oh, wow.
saying my SIM card was about to be deactivated because of some new regulation. He knew all my basic information.
Yeah.
And I almost fell for it.
Wow.
Thankfully, I remembered Dubey's advice to always verify everything directly with your service provider before sharing any sensitive details.
Right. The eSIM scam is particularly clever.
Yeah.
Because it exploits the way eSIMs are activated.
Okay.
It's a largely digital process.
Yeah.
Which makes it easier for criminals to intercept communication and manipulate victims.
Gotcha.
They send fake instructions via SMS and then use social engineering tactics.
Right.
Like creating a sense of urgency.
Right.
Or pretending to be helpful.
Right.
To pressure you into revealing critical information.
So the takeaway there is, even if a call or message seems legitimate, don't take it at face value.
Right.
Always verify independently.
Exactly.
And speaking of seemingly harmless things that can be exploited.
Okay.
Dubey reveals something I never would have thought about.
Yeah. What's that?
Apparently, even your voicemail can be a backdoor for hackers.
Huh. Interesting.
That's right. What Dubey highlights is that criminals can enable your voicemail without your knowledge.
Right.
And then use it to intercept sensitive information.
Okay.
Like one-time passwords or OTPs for short.
Gotcha.
I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure how that works.
Okay.
Can you break it down for me?
Sure.
And for our listener, too.
Yeah.
How can someone enable my voicemail without me knowing?
It's a bit technical. But essentially, they exploit vulnerabilities in the way some mobile networks handle voicemail settings. They can manipulate these settings remotely without you ever realizing it.
Really?
And here's why this is so dangerous.
Okay.
Imagine you're in a meeting and you miss a call.
Right.
Now, let's say a criminal is trying to access your bank account.
Okay.
Or some other sensitive online service.
Right.
They initiate a password reset.
Okay.
Which triggers an OTP to be sent to your phone since you don't answer. That OTP goes straight to your voicemail.
Oh, I see.
And guess what?
What?
The criminal can now access it.
Wow.
Because they've secretly enabled it.
That's sneaky.
I know.
So it's like they're turning a security feature, the voicemail, into a weapon against us.
Pretty much.
It really makes you realize how vulnerable we can be, even in seemingly everyday situations.
Yeah.
And it's not just our phones and online accounts at risk.
Right.
Dubey also talks about the dangers lurking on dating apps.
Oh, yeah.
He describes a case where two roommates got scammed by fake profiles that led them to an expensive restaurant.
Wow.
But what's really interesting here is that the victims initially thought they were just being catfished by individuals.
Okay.
It turned out to be a much bigger operation.
Oh, really?
Can you tell us more about how that scheme worked?
Absolutely. This case really highlights how criminals are getting creative with their scams.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a simple case of catfishing.
Right.
It was a carefully orchestrated scheme
Wow.
involving the restaurant and a marketing agency.
So the marketing agency would guarantee the restaurant a certain number of customers using these fake dating profiles to lure people in.
Interesting.
The victims, thinking they were just meeting someone for a date, were actually pawns in a larger money-making operation.
Wow. So it was the restaurant and the marketing agency who were ultimately benefiting from this scam.
That's just crazy. It's like a whole new level of deception.
For sure.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right?
Right.
Dubey does offer some practical advice on how to protect ourselves.
Okay, good.
He talks about the importance of using credit cards in situations where you might be pressured to pay an inflated bill.
Yeah.
Like in that restaurant scam.
Right.
That way you can always dispute the charge later. He also emphasizes the importance of contacting the police immediately if you find yourself in a dangerous situation.
Of course.
It might seem obvious.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes people hesitate to involve the authorities, especially in cases of online scams.
Sure.
But beyond the specific advice, what really resonated with me was Dubey's insight into the world of cybercrime investigations.
Interesting.
I was particularly fascinated by the case of the ATM robbery. That was solved in just 4 hours.
Wow.
Using call data analysis.
Interesting.
How is that even possible?
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of clues can you get from just analyzing phone calls?
It's a fascinating example of how seemingly unrelated data points can be used to crack a case wide open. In this case, investigators analyzed call records from the area and time of the robbery, looking for patterns and anomalies. They found something very unusual, a cluster of calls between 3 numbers where the caller and the receiver were in the same location.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, this is a major red flag because it suggests a high probability of criminal activity. Using an app called Truecaller, which is popular in India for identifying unknown numbers. They were able to identify the individuals involved.
Wow.
From there, they went deeper, obtaining their Facebook profiles, even uncovering details about their families.
Wow.
It's a testament to how technology can be used for good, but also how seemingly innocuous information, like our phone records, can be used to build a very compelling case.
It's mind-blowing how much information investigators can glean from just
I know, it's crazy.
Analyzing data.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy or straightforward.
Right.
Dubey mentions another case where they had to sift through the victim's entire Gmail and Google dashboard data.
Oh, wow.
To find a single lead.
That sounds tedious.
It sounds incredibly tedious.
Yeah.
But what I also found striking is how Dubey doesn't just focus on the technical aspects. He also acknowledges the human cost of cybercrime.
Right.
The emotional toll it takes on victims.
Yeah, for sure.
He recounts a story about a businessman who was scammed. And said he was more concerned with catching the scammer than recovering his money.
Interesting.
It's a powerful reminder that these crimes aren't just about financial loss.
Exactly.
They can have a profound impact on people's lives, their sense of security, and their belief in justice.
It raises the important point that the true impact of cybercrime can't always be measured in monetary terms. We need to consider the psychological damage inflicted, the feelings of betrayal, violation, and powerlessness that victims often experience. He even mentions a case where a father attempted suicide.
Oh my God.
Due to the intense pressure of a cybercrime investigation. It underscores the very real human cost of these crimes.
It's a stark reminder that behind the screens, the data, and the technical jargon, there are real people whose lives are being turned upside down.
For sure.
By these crimes.
It's sad.
Speaking of real-life consequences, remember that murder mystery I mentioned earlier? The one involving a smartwatch? Well, that's where our deep dive takes a really fascinating turn. Dubey reveals how technology that we use for everyday purposes can become crucial evidence in criminal investigations.
Wow.
And in this case, the victim's smartwatch held the key to unlocking the truth.
Interesting.
It's like something straight out of a crime drama, right?
It is pretty wild.
It is.
Smart devices like smartwatches and even home assistants like Alexa are increasingly becoming sources of evidence in investigations. They offer a digital window into people's lives, capturing data about their location, their activities, and even their physical state.
Wow.
In this particular murder case, the victim's smartwatch provided data that contradicted the initial assumptions about the case.
Interesting.
It showed a struggle. A sudden drop in altitude.
Oh, wow.
And a timeline that completely changed the direction of the investigation.
So the smartwatch basically became a silent witness. Providing crucial evidence that helped investigators piece together what really happened. And from what I understand, the case took another unexpected turn.
Oh, really?
When investigators discovered something rather peculiar.
Okay, what's that?
On the victim's laptop. They found a bunch of videos related to the supernatural.
Really?
It seems the victim was really into that stuff.
Oh, wow.
And it initially sent the investigators down a completely different path.
Interesting.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this.
Sure.
What are the implications of uncovering such personal information during an investigation? I mean, where do we draw the line between the need for evidence and the right to privacy?
It's a valid question and one that investigators grapple with all the time. In this case, the supernatural videos ultimately proved irrelevant to the murder. But it does make you think about the vast amount of personal data we generate every day and how easily it can be accessed and used.
Yeah, where do we draw the line?
Right.
How do we balance the need for evidence with the right to privacy?
Exactly.
Especially when it comes to sensitive personal beliefs or interests.
Yeah.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
For sure.
Right? It's like a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Once it's open, it's hard to control what comes out.
I know.
But let's shift gears a bit and talk about the future of cybercrime.
All right.
Because according to Dubey, things are about to get even wilder.
Oh, no.
He specifically mentions the role of artificial intelligence and how it's going to be a game changer in both good and bad ways.
Right.
And he's not just talking about some sci-fi future.
Yeah.
We're talking about AI. It's being used right now to create incredibly realistic deepfakes.
Scary.
Can you explain to our listener
Sure.
what deepfakes are and why they're such a cause for concern?
Deepfakes are AI-generated videos or audio that can make anyone appear to say or do anything.
Wow.
Imagine getting a call from your loved one pleading for help. In a desperate situation, you'd do anything to help them, right?
Of course.
But what if that video call was a deepfake?
Oh, gosh.
Carefully crafted by criminals to manipulate you into sending money or revealing sensitive information.
That's terrifying.
It is.
I mean, how can we even tell what's real anymore?
Right.
Are there any ways to detect deepfakes?
That's the challenge.
Right.
Deepfakes are becoming increasingly sophisticated. And it's getting harder and harder to distinguish them from real videos or audio.
Gotcha.
There are some technical tools and techniques being developed to detect deepfakes.
Right.
But it's an ongoing arms race between those creating them and those trying to detect them.
It sounds like we're going to have to become a lot more skeptical about what we see and hear online.
Exactly.
But AI isn't just being used for deepfakes.
Right.
Dubey also talks about the potential for AI-powered scams that are tailored to our individual vulnerabilities.
Exactly. As AI becomes more powerful, criminals are going to leverage it to create even more convincing and personalized scams. They can use AI to gather information about your interests, your habits, and even your emotional state. And then use that information to craft targeted scams that are much more likely to trick you.
So it's not just about being careful with what you share online.
Exactly.
It's about understanding that our data can be used against us in ways we might not even imagine.
That's right.
And speaking of new frontiers, Dubey brings up the Metaverse. Which is basically this immersive digital world where people interact through avatars.
Cool.
He expresses concern about the potential for a whole new breed of cybercrime in the Metaverse. Citing the example of a sexual assault case that occurred in the UK.
Oh, wow.
It makes you wonder, how do we even define and prosecute crimes in a virtual space?
The Metaverse is a whole new frontier for both criminals and law enforcement. It's a virtual world. But the experiences people have there can have very real psychological impacts.
How do we define and prosecute crimes like harassment, assault, or theft when they occur through avatars in a virtual environment?
Exactly.
These are complex questions that are only going to become more urgent as the Metaverse evolves.
For sure.
It's like the Wild West of technology. We're just starting to explore this new world. And we're already seeing the potential for both good and bad.
That's true.
And it's not just adults who are at risk. Dubey is particularly concerned about the vulnerability of children in the Metaverse. He explains how AI could be used to create highly personalized scams that target children's specific interests and vulnerabilities, making them even more susceptible to manipulation.
Wow.
Imagine a scam that's designed to look like your child's favorite video game or social media platform. It's a chilling thought.
That is scary.
It's definitely a lot to take in.
Oh,
We've covered so much ground already. Romance scams, spoofing voicemail vulnerabilities, dating app schemes, the ATM robbery solved with call data analysis.
Right.
The murder mystery with the smartwatch.
Yeah.
The ethical dilemmas around privacy. The rise of deepfakes.
Okay.
AI-powered scams. And now the potential for cybercrime in the metaverse.
The metaverse, yeah.
It feels like we're constantly playing catch-up, trying to stay one step ahead of the bad guys. But what can we actually do to protect ourselves?
Right.
I mean, we can't just unplug from the digital world entirely, can we?
You completely disconnecting isn't a realistic solution for most of us.
Exactly.
But we can be more mindful and proactive in how we engage with technology.
Right.
Dubey emphasizes the importance of continuous learning and adaptation.
Okay.
He encourages us to stay informed about emerging threats.
Yeah.
Be cautious about sharing personal information and develop a healthy skepticism towards anything that seems too good to be true.
Okay. And of course, there are practical steps we can take.
Right.
Like using strong passwords, enabling two-factor authentication, and keeping our software and devices up to date.
Those are all things we hear a lot, but it's easy to get complacent.
Right. But I think what Dubey is really getting at
is something deeper than just technical tips.
Right.
He's talking about developing a mindset of critical thinking and awareness, right?
Absolutely. He encourages us to ask questions, challenge assumptions, and think critically about the information we encounter online.
Gotcha.
Don't just accept things at face value, especially when it comes to financial transactions or requests for personal information. Always verify, double check, and trust your instincts.
It's about becoming more digitally literate.
Yeah.
Not just passive consumers of technology, but active participants who understand the risks and how to mitigate them.
Exactly. This entire interview with Amit Dubey, you know, it's interesting how Dubey emphasizes that point, that we can't just rely on technical solutions. We need to change our mindset. Be more aware of the risks.
And really think critically about our online behavior.
It's like he's saying we need to develop a healthy dose of digital skepticism.
Precisely. Don't just blindly click links. Trust messages or share information without thinking twice.
And that awareness needs to extend to our personal lives as well.
Exactly.
Dubey highlights the importance of sharing this knowledge with others, especially family and friends who might not be as familiar with these risks. We need to create a culture of cybersecurity awareness. Where we look out for each other and empower each other to stay safe online.
It really struck me when Dubey talked about the father who attempted suicide. Wow! Because of the intense pressure of a cybercrime investigation. It shows how these crimes aren't just abstract events.
Happening in the digital world. They have real-life consequences that can be absolutely devastating.
It's a heartbreaking reminder that behind the statistics and the technical jargon, there are real human stories of loss, fear, and despair. Cybercrime isn't just about financial loss. It can shatter lives and leave deep emotional scars.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's a stark reminder that we need to approach these issues with empathy and understanding. And that the victims of cybercrime deserve our support and compassion.
I agree.
Okay, remember that motor case we discussed earlier? The one where the victim's smartwatch helped crack the case? Well, there's another twist to that story.
Oh, really?
That I found particularly thought-provoking. When investigators analyzed the victim's laptop, they found a collection of videos related to the supernatural. It seems the victim was really into that stuff. And it initially sent the investigators down a completely different path.
Interesting. The discovery of those videos raised some interesting questions about the scope of investigations and the right to privacy. While the videos were ultimately irrelevant to the murder. It highlights the fact that investigators often uncover personal information that's not directly related to the crime at hand.
It makes you think about how much of our lives is documented digitally and how that information could be accessed and interpreted.
Exactly.
Where do we draw the line between legitimate investigation and intruding on someone's personal life.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Right.
We need to balance the need to solve crimes with the right to privacy. But it's a conversation we need to have as technology continues to evolve and our digital footprints expand.
Right. It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And one that's going to become even more important as we move towards an increasingly digital future. So let's talk about that future.
Okay.
Dubey paints a picture that's both exciting and unnerving, especially when it comes to the role of artificial intelligence.
Right.
He warns that AI is going to be a double-edged sword in the fight against cybercrime.
Gotcha.
On one hand, it can be a powerful tool for cybersecurity professionals.
Right.
But on the other hand, criminals are also going to leverage AI to develop even more sophisticated attacks.
Yeah.
We've already talked about deepfakes.
Yeah.
But what are some other ways that criminals might use AI to target us? What should we be prepared for?
AI is going to change the landscape of cybercrime in ways we can't fully predict. But here are a few possibilities to consider.
Okay.
Imagine AI-powered phishing attacks that are so personalized and convincing that they're almost impossible to resist.
Wow.
Or AI systems that can analyze your social media activity to identify your vulnerabilities and exploit them.
That's scary.
AI could also be used to create sophisticated botnets that can launch massive attacks or spread disinformation on a scale we've never seen before. And as AI becomes more accessible, we could see a rise in cybercrime as a service, where criminals can rent out AI tools and expertise to carry out attacks.
So it's not just about protecting ourselves from individual hackers anymore.
Exactly.
It's about understanding that we could be up against sophisticated AI systems that are constantly learning and evolving. It all sounds pretty overwhelming, to be honest. But is there anything we can do to prepare for this AI-powered future of cybercrime?
The good news is that AI can also be a powerful tool in the fight against cybercrime. Security professionals are already using AI to detect threats, analyze malware, and respond to attacks more effectively.
Okay, but on an individual level, I think the key is to stay informed, to be adaptable.
Exactly.
The specific threats might change. But the underlying principles of cybersecurity remain the same. Be aware of your vulnerabilities. Be cautious about what you share. And be skeptical of anything that seems too good to be true.
Dubey also talks about the Metaverse, which is basically a network of immersive digital worlds.
Where people can interact through avatars. It's being hailed as the next evolution of the internet. But Dubey expresses concern about the potential for a whole new breed of cybercrime in this virtual space. He even mentions a case of sexual assault that occurred in the UK within a metaverse environment.
That's disturbing to think that
it is
the same crimes that plague the physical world could follow us into these virtual spaces.
The metaverse presents unique challenges for law enforcement and cybersecurity, for example. How do we define and prosecute crimes like harassment, assault, or theft when they occur through avatars in a virtual environment?
It's like a wild west of technology.
I know.
All over again. We're entering a new frontier. And the rules of engagement are still being written.
And it's not just about
protecting ourselves from criminals. We also need to be mindful of the potential for surveillance and data collection by the companies that create and control these metaverse platforms.
They'll have access to a wealth of information about our behavior, our preferences, and interactions in these virtual worlds.
How do we ensure that this data is used responsibly and ethically? That's a crucial question.
Right.
We need to start thinking about these issues now before the metaverse becomes so pervasive that it's too late to course correct.
Yeah, we need to advocate for strong privacy protections, transparent data practices, and clear accountability mechanisms within these virtual spaces.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new technology, but we need to be mindful of the potential risks and consequences.
And it's not just adults who are at risk in the metaverse.
Yeah.
Dubey is particularly concerned about the vulnerability of children in these virtual environments.
Yeah.
He talks about the potential for AI-powered scams that are tailored to children's specific interests and vulnerabilities, making them even more susceptible to manipulation.
Yeah.
It's a chilling thought.
This is.
And it raises some important questions about how we can protect children in these merging digital spaces.
It's a huge challenge. Children are often more trusting and less aware of the risks online. We need to educate them about online safety. Teach them critical thinking skills and empower them to identify and report suspicious activity.
And it's not just about education.
Right.
We also need to create safer online environments for children.
Exactly.
That means working with technology companies to design platforms that are age appropriate and have robust safety features.
Right.
It also means advocating for stronger laws and regulations that protect children from online exploitation and abuse.
This whole conversation has been a real eye-opener.
Right.
It's clear that we're facing a rapidly evolving threat landscape and that the stakes are higher than ever before.
But I also feel a sense of empowerment. Knowing that we're not powerless by understanding the risks, being proactive about our security and sharing this knowledge with others. We can all play a role in creating a safer digital world.
Dubey's insights have given us a lot to think about, but most importantly, they've given us a call to action.
Right.
It's time to step up our cybersecurity game, both individually and collectively.
So what are some concrete steps that you would recommend our listeners take right now to improve their cybersecurity?
Sure.
What are the most important things we can do to stay ahead of the curve?
First and foremost, be proactive about your passwords.
Right.
Use strong, unique passwords for all your accounts. And consider using a password manager to help you generate and store them securely.
Right. We've all heard that advice before. But it's amazing how many people still use weak passwords or reuse the same password across multiple accounts.
It's like leaving your front door unlocked.
Right. And speaking of doors, enable two-factor authentication whenever possible.
Right.
It's like adding an extra lock to your online accounts, making it much harder for criminals to break in.
Exactly.
Even if they steal your password.
Right.
Two-factor authentication is becoming increasingly common. And it's a really effective way to add an extra layer of security.
Yeah, what about our devices?
Right.
What can we do to make sure our phones, computers, and other devices are secure?
Keep your software and apps up to date.
Right.
Those updates often include important security patches that fix vulnerabilities that criminals could exploit.
Right.
And be cautious about downloading apps from unknown sources. Stick to official app stores.
Right.
And read reviews before installing anything.
Good advice. It's easy to just click install without thinking. But it's important to be mindful of what we're giving access to our devices.
Absolutely. And be wary of public Wi-Fi networks. If you're using public Wi-Fi.
Right.
Avoid accessing sensitive information like banking or shopping accounts. Consider using a VPN.
Right.
Or virtual private network to encrypt your connection and protect your data.
VPNs are becoming more popular, and they're a great way
to add an extra layer of security. Especially when you're using public Wi-Fi.
Exactly. But beyond these technical measures, I think what Dubey is really emphasizing is the importance of developing a more critical and skeptical mindset online.
So don't just blindly click links.
Right.
Especially in emails or text messages. Hover over links to see where they lead before clicking.
Right.
Be cautious of emails or messages that create a sense of urgency or pressure you to act quickly.
Right. Scammers often use those tactics to trick people into making a mistake.
It's also important to be wary of requests for personal information.
Right.
Especially if they come from unexpected sources.
Okay.
Verify independently
before
sharing any sensitive data.
And be mindful of what you share on social media. Criminals can use your posts and photos to gather information about you.
Gotcha.
And target you with scams.
Adjust your privacy settings to control who can see your information.
It's amazing how much information we reveal about ourselves online without even realizing it.
Right. It's like leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for criminals to follow.
Yeah.
So we need to be more conscious of our digital footprint and take steps to protect our privacy.
Exactly. And it's an ongoing process. The threat landscape is constantly evolving. So we need to stay informed and adapt our security practices accordingly.
Cybersecurity isn't a one-time fix. It's a continuous journey of learning and adaptation. It's like that old saying, forewarned is forearmed. The more we know about the methods criminals are using, the better prepared we'll be to protect ourselves and our loved ones.
And remember, you mentioned earlier how one of the people Dubey interviewed was more focused on catching the scammer and getting his money back. That really highlights the emotional impact these crimes can have.
Absolutely. It's a violation of trust. A feeling of being taken advantage of. And I think it's natural to want to see justice served, not just for yourself, but to prevent others from becoming victims too.
And that brings up a really important point. Reporting these crimes, even if you feel embarrassed or ashamed, reporting it can be crucial. Your experience might be the missing piece that helps investigators catch the perpetrators and prevent others from going through the same thing.
The Dubey also talks about how investigators are increasingly relying on data from everyday devices to solve cases. He mentions a case where a murder was solved thanks to data collected by the victim's smartwatch.
It's amazing how the technology we use for convenience and entertainment can also be a source of evidence.
It's a reminder that our digital footprint extends far beyond our computers and phones.
And as these devices become more integrated into our lives, the data they collect is only going to become more valuable to investigators. Both in solving crimes and understanding the patterns and motivations behind them.
This deep dive has been a real journey into the world of cybercrime. We've covered so much ground from those psychological tricks scammers use to the threats posed by AI and the metaverse. It's a lot to take in. But I have to say, knowing all this makes me feel more prepared.
Good.
Not scared.
I understand what you mean.
Right?
It can feel overwhelming. But the key takeaway is that we don't have to be victims by understanding the risks, taking those proactive steps to protect ourselves, and sharing this knowledge with others. We can all help create a safer digital world.
I love that. Knowledge is power. And that power is in our hands.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone in this. There are so many resources out there to help you stay safe online. From government agencies to cybersecurity organizations to just talking to friends and family who might have helpful tips.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
And I want to thank you.
Oh, of course.
For sharing your expertise with us today.
My pleasure.
I know our listener will feel much more informed and prepared to face the digital world after hearing your insights.
I hope so.
And to our listener, we hope you found this exploration into cybercrime valuable. Remember, the digital world is constantly evolving. So stay curious, stay vigilant, and stay connected. We'll see you on our next deep dive.